Good evening, everyone. I would like to remind you all to please keep your microphones off unless you're speaking. I wanted to ask Teresa if, Ms. Grahowski, if you could do a roll call. I can't see through the list. I want to make sure that we have a quorum. Could you please do a roll call?
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Mr. Freitas?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Lamos? Dr. Pomponio?
Here.
Mr. Sage?
Mr. Sage is going to be absent for a portion of this meeting.
And Mr. Estheimer?
I'm here. Thank you so much. All right. Before I call the meeting to order, I wanted to thank all the parents that took the time to come out, staff members, administrators, our superintendent, of course, and the members of our COLT team, the continuation learning team. Dr. Baker Herring, thank you also for being here, as well as our board members. With that, we did call this special meeting for August 3rd, 2020, to get an update on the team, the COLT team's things that we're going to discuss as well. No decision should come out of this meeting. This is for informational purposes only. And we will have an opportunity for parents to speak and give feedback down about item E, just after we approve the agenda. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order. And we will, if you could please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Southgate's mission statement is learning for life. Our vision statement, Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. And with that, we'll go to item D, revisions and approval of the agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Craig.
I'd like to make a motion to revise the agenda. I would like to replace F1 with discussion by the school board members to identify the best options for starting school.
Okay.
And then move F1 to F2. And then also add F3, which is provide direction to administration on what the board expects for the start of school.
All right. And do we have support for that motion?
Support.
Thank you. Do you have that, Ms. Grahowski?
Pretty sure I got that.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any discussion on that item?
I'll go ahead and just say that I think that was the whole purpose of this meeting, was to have a discussion with the board about what we feel are our best options for starting school, and to be able to provide that direction to the superintendent. I'm not sure why it wasn't on the agenda, but I'd like to add it.
Okay, sounds good. And I apologize. You were one of the ones that asked for this meeting, and I thought that we could kind of handle that within that question one, but I'm glad that you have identified those exact points. That'll be, I'm fine with that. Any other comments or from the board? All right, hearing none, we'll call the question. If you could do a roll call vote on that, please, Ms. Grahowski.
Mr. Freitas?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio?
Yes.
Did Mr. Lamos arrive?
Yes.
And Mr. Sage is still not here?
Correct.
Mr. Estheimer?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So moved. All right, and that brings us to citizens' comments. Did we have some citizens' comments? Mr. House, yeah, I'm not sure who's handling that. Ms. Pastor, do we have citizens' comments that were presented?
Yes, we have 4 or 5 people who would like to talk. I'll go in the order they appear on the Google Docs. So Adriana Carpenter, if you will please unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes.
Maybe we can circle back.
Okay, so Jennifer, I apologize, Pipta.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay? So, yes, I had sent a comment, and I just want to read it really quickly. One, I find it very ironic that it's unsafe for everyone to come together for a school board meeting, yet we're talking about sending our kids into the classroom on September 1st. I had attended the virtual meetings that were held previously, and I have to say that I kind of feel trapped into the decision to send my kids face-to-face instruction. My son takes AP classes, and the AP classes that plan that was laid out is very lacking for him and for my child who has advanced classes at the middle school. To say that he can take his AP classes or electives in person, but then attend Atlas online is not a viable option for myself and for many people in the district, as these kids can't drive. And if you have more than one child, you're dropping off, picking up, dropping off, picking up, dropping off, picking up to have them in person in the classroom. Atlas, I think, is very lacking for the advanced kids who do want to have those AP classes. So it's just not something that I think is very viable. And then to say that we're going to have virtual classrooms like we had in the spring for remote learning, which, please don't get me wrong, I know that everybody did the best that they could in a very short amount of time to get kids back up into a learning platform. But that was a very lacking kind of a situation, and it needs to be more robust. We need to, at least if we're going to have to go online, to have these kids meeting with the teachers face to face more. Some kids don't learn well with an Atlas type of a program. So I really think that something needs to be done. The plan as it was laid out in that virtual class really didn't say much for what the district's plan is for a child testing positive. Yes, it's easier to shut down a classroom who's cohorted in the elementary schools.
Just Pipta, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you could take a wrap up in the next 30 seconds, if you'd like us to hear your further comments, please send them to the superintendent if you're not able to finish reading your comments, and then she'll make sure that we get them, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Just lastly, I think that there needs to be a plan that's in place of what is going to happen in the middle school and the high school for if there is a positive case, especially when you're mixing in with all these other kids. If I'm not mistaken, the governor has shut us down to 10 people for an indoor setting. The last I saw, there's a lot more than 10 kids that attend all of these schools. So I just don't see how we can safely get these kids back into a classroom.
Thank you so much for your comments. Ms. Pastor?
Elizabeth Altizer is next on the list.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I would like to comment regarding the options for fall back to school. First, I wanted to say thank you to all of the people who have put countless hours into researching what best practices are for our students, conducting parent surveys, reaching out to parents through Zoom and other forums. I appreciate all of you and the hard work that you have done. However, I would love to have the option of remote learning with Southgate teachers and Southgate curriculum as one of our choices. This is very important to me. Part of the reason we love our school district is the teachers. Excuse me. They are the ones who can best teach my child and already have a connection with him. My son will be a senior this year, and just like the last speaker, his AP classes I do not feel are supported through Atlas. He also has performing arts classes, like band, cannot be supported through Atlas. Honestly, I'm scared to send him to school, but I don't know what other choice I have. I would be more in favor of starting the year remote and then reassessing to see if face-to-face is safe for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Altizer. Ms. Pastor, who's next?
Lindsay Silcott.
Lindsay, Brandy, are you with us? Ms. Sokop.
So I'll circle back. Next, I also have Brandy Nusser.
I did see her name. Brandy, are you there? Okay.
Circling back, I have Adriana Carpenter.
Adriana Carpenter, are you with us? Ms. Pastor, did any of these folks provide written statements?
They did.
Could you perhaps submit those to us?
I can do that, yes.
I want to make sure that the board has a chance to hear from them.
Would it be more appropriate to have them read into the record, or do we just want to get them emailed?
Yeah, that'd be great. Would you mind doing that, Ms. Pastor?
How long are they? Are they very long, or?
So for example, Adriana Carpenter says, will latchkey be open and available for parents that need it? That's the only question that she put in.
An answer to that should be easy. I know we're just doing comments, but you have an answer that right away.
So we do know that we can have latchkey. Lindsay Silcott says, we are concerned about the opening of school, worries for more chances of contacting COVID-19 and exposure to not only kids and families, but also teachers and staff and their families. Please consider possibly postponing face-to-face for the start of the school year. Thank you.
Okay.
Brandy Nusser says, I would like to know if this district is considering starting 100% remote for the beginning of the year. There are more and more districts going this route. This option would allow us to start the year and stay consistent no matter what phase our region starts or ends September in. It would also allow students and teachers to be more comfortable than they would be in hot classrooms with no fans and wearing masks. This would allow all of our students to have an equal education with Southgate Community Schools teacher. Thank you for all the work board, administration, and committees are putting into this effort.
Thank you. And I did see that Ms. Nusser did get her microphone working. So we did hear your statement, Ms. Nusser. So thank you. Okay. And is that it for the comments?
Yes.
Hello?
All right.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, can I add something or no?
Sure. Go ahead. I believe we can open this up. Yes.
Yeah, I'm Safa Saadi. I'm a mother of 3 children in high school and in the middle school. I want to ask if the kids, they have a problem with severe asthma or allergic or health problem, what the situation will be in the school with these kids? How I'll make sure my kids, if they open the school, my kids is safe in there.
Is that a question that we can answer? This is mainly a comment time, but if we have an answer for your question, we can try to answer it right away.
Yeah, okay.
President, point of order. I think it's important that we stick to the format of the agenda.
I don't know. They have an order question. This is my first time with you in email.
Okay, thank
and
you.
not needing call. Okay, thank you.
1 second. The reason I had said that, Mr. Craig, is because on the back of the agenda, there was a spot where it said, I thought there was a spot where it said that they could do, I know on the front agenda, it says comments, but I thought on the back it said a question. So I just had to refer back to that just to make sure. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on now to the item F. So we're going to item F. Mr. Craig, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. As I said, I think it's important that we get a chance to go around the room and hear from all the board members. So I can tell you, I'm going to, while others are talking, I'm going to turn my mic off, and whatever others do, it's up to them. But I guess I would suggest we just go down the left side of the agenda, top to bottom. Everybody gets a turn and gets to say what they feel about how they feel about the start of school, what they think's the best option and where they think we should be going. And then we can have a discussion afterwards, I guess. That would be my proposition.
I'm okay with that. I can go first. That's the reason why I thought we had this meeting. I haven't made up a decision. I haven't made a decision yet, one way or another. So I really wanted to hear from you all before I did. I could tell you I'm on the fence either way. I've heard from over the past few days. I've heard from several parents and teachers, and I share their concerns as a father myself, and as a board member. One of our main functions or purposes is to provide safety and security for all students and staff. So I'm fully aware of the impact of our decision, and I just want to respect the other board members and get their perspective. I will tell you this, with the recent COVID-19 cases in Michigan and how they're escalating in the 600-700 range, the more I see that, the more cautious I am when it comes to wanting to open schools. But I did want to have an opportunity to hear the rest of the board members. Obviously, we're not making a decision tonight. Maybe, and then once we hear from the Colt team, that might help with my decision making as well. But that's sort of where I'm at right now. So next we can hear from Vice President Andrew Green, who I might add is, I wanted to thank him. He spent a lot of time with me on the phone. We've been going back and forth about all this, and he's vetted a lot of the information. So thank you, Mr. Vice President Green. You are up.
Thank you, Mr. Estheimer. Forgive me, everybody online, and I see this is a lot of people here, and I understand why. I'm going to start this by saying that I believe this is the hardest decision I've ever had to have professionally in my life. I didn't get into education, and I'm not hiding behind the fact that I'm a teacher in another district, to make decisions about something quite this dramatic. I'm going to try to be as fully transparent as I can with my opinion, and it's my opinion. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this is how I feel. And how I felt in the last few days. I've actually written a statement, so if I'm looking back and forth, so I don't miss anything, please forgive me. I'm not trying to be rude. I usually don't write statements. People that know me know that I speak from the cuff, but I think it's important that I hit as many of these points for everybody to understand where I'm coming from. Last Monday, this school board had a work session, which was not privy to the public. I think every board member will agree that at that point, I made it clear that looking at a parent survey that was somewhere in the neighborhood of 55%, 45%. So we have a very split community, it seems like, on what to do and very strong opinions. That I was at the time for partly online, and the students that want to come back face to face. I also questioned why we did not have the option in the parent survey to have online Southgate teachers versus an Atlas program. After vetting other districts, and I talked to 4 or 5 other districts on this subject to see how they were doing, teachers within their district, I learned from a number of districts that many of the things that those districts were doing, our district cannot do financially or for other reasons. We just don't have the resources. That stinks to say, but it is factual. Which means that if we did do virtual, it would have to be Atlas and the face-to-face option. I also made it clear in that meeting that through my own personal and my daughter's mother, that we have talked, and we don't agree on much. We are not together, but we agreed that we are not sending our daughter back face-to-face for the pure reason, many reasons, but one being that there's many people with health issues in our family. In the past 6 days, so this is a decision I'm not taking lightly. In the past 6 days, there's been a lot of stress. The sleep has been minimal. The phone calls have been plenty, and the emails with concerns on both sides. I hear those who have told me face-to-face is the best option, and that parents must work. I totally agree. I don't think any teacher is denying that face-to-face is the best option. I understand parents have to work. I don't have an answer for that question if we decide to go remote. I just don't. I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us do. I hear socialization is needed. And what about sports? I would caution that socialization in a school right now is not going to be pre-March 13th school, with kids playing with blocks in the younger age groups, or being able to talk to their friends. That's just not going to happen now. I'm not saying to sway anybody's opinion, but it will be different. Sports would be a different option. Other districts that are going online are using studies that say that, you know, you're outside, you better chance not to get it. I don't know. Whatever side you're on, I'm not trying to be political. You can have one study that says this, and another study is going to counter and say that. It all depends who you're looking at and who you're talking to. So I'm not trying to get into a political game by any means. So I understand. I've also heard that young kids aren't high at risk, and I've seen studies like that also. Some are comfortable with their kids' immune systems. On the flip side, I've heard from the community, online Atlas is not a good option. Concerns for safety. How is my child going to wear face mask in school? Why did we not get an option of a virtual teacher, which I think I went over, so forth and so on. And these are from a number of emails. I've talked to professionals and teachers, other school board members, and 2 superintendents in the last 6 days who I know are friends. I understand the fear that many of you don't know about funding. There is a fear that federal funding will be withheld. The Detroit superintendent said that if we do not have a face-to-face option. That's not 100%, but it is a scare if we go remote about lack of money. Also, the state budget is not due till October 1st, and there's a stipulation somewhat along the lines for that same reason. Some districts who are going remote are doing it for the first 4 weeks so they can look at where the state is at that time. So I understand all those concerns. Our plan for returning to be safe was done by a number of teachers and our COLT team, which is, you know, a team for safety for all 3 levels of schools. They've done a wonderful job, and understand that team has to, in our school district, has to have a plan for phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5, just in case we're in there. Also, please understand that by next Tuesday, in 8 days, we have to submit these plans to the state of Michigan. And the plans may be denied. So I hear about the funding. I hear about what we may or may have to not have to do. But the state could deny our plans even if we give them to them. So where do I stand now in what I have seen? To me, our biggest issue, the Board of Education, is to make a combination of keeping people safe and giving them the best learning option that's possible. It might not be the best learning option right now, but the best learning option that's possible. Again, 6 days ago, I was for face-to-face and online under the circumstances of Atlas. In the last 6 days, this is what I've seen. I've seen 600 to 700 cases a day on an average. I've seen a Georgia camp have 200 kids that have been diagnosed with COVID. I've seen 2 schools in Indiana that have had to shut down within the first week. I have seen a report, and I don't think they're in school, but that a 14 and 17-year-old child has passed away in Florida from COVID. And I understand other diseases kill people too. But what happened in these other diseases 10 years ago isn't an option for us today. If we have an outbreak, we have to close. So I question the continuity of what's best for a student. And I think what's best for a student is to have a teacher in front of them in some capacity, a Southgate teacher in front of them. I've seen the state legislator that's going to close down for a week. And I've seen the governor say we can't have 10 people in certain buildings at one time, but we're going to put 15 to 20 in a classroom. I'm well aware that my opinion is unpopular to some. I feel that remote at this point to start the year and reevaluating is the best option for all. I know that comes with risks. Not only the funding, but for those that want face-to-face, may choose to go to other districts. And in my opinion, if other districts take more kids and put them into their classrooms and jam their teachers up, I think that's awful. I believe the best option at this point is to start remotely, and then move forward from there. I didn't even mention that pro sports teams can't get this straight right now. I just think we need some more time to see the direction of the government. I think we need some more time to see what's going on. And I think this is the best option. So unless something changes in the next 8 days, that is going to be my stance. I think it's very compelling. One of our parents who's a medical teacher in the medical field quoted, "My husband is on the front lines and he sees this virus. And for those that say that it doesn't affect young people, he has seen it. This virus does not discriminate who gets the bad version of it." This is where I stand at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Excuse me, can I add something what he said?
No,
I'm in medical field.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that there isn't time right now for public comment. If you'd like to, you could type a message and perhaps we can read that in the chat. Moving on,
Okay.
We'll go to the treasurer. We'll go to the board secretary, Dr. Darlene Pomponio. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. And Teresa, can you place my my comments in the record? I'll send you a copy of it. First, I would like to say that the decision on the direction on how the students will be educated at the start of the new school year is not an easy one. In fact, it has many components that make it a difficult one. If we were making this decision at a time where there are no more cases of COVID-19 and we're just being precautionary to open the buildings, then some of the ideas and options would make sense. Considering all of the inconveniences as well and optimum learning for all of the students. But we're not there. In fact, we are in an uncertain and unstable place as the virus has not been eradicated and has been spiked up in many places, including Wayne County. Here are some of the concerns that I have. Students wearing masks all day. Who has asthma or other breathing difficulties, or even students with anxiety? Who's going to monitor each and every student? Who's going to pick up their face and touch them? They don't have gloves, so they're going to be having contact with their eyes, their nose, their mouth. Social distancing. We've had too many students in each classroom before the virus. How would it be safe to social distance in each building? Sanitizing, again, how are we going to fully sanitize the entire building before, during, and after the students are there in place? So, I mean, we had comments from parents about the soap being in the bathroom. So I have concerns about, just being around the students, sanitizing every step of what they're touching throughout the entire day. So, in face-to-face, we're going to take the temperature of each student, or are we going to take the temperature of each student every morning? What about the students who enter the building late? Who is responsible for taking their temperature, logging it down? Because if there's any spikes or if they get COVID, we have to link it to who it was. Students touch their faces, noses, eyes, and other objects. Unless we are watching their every move, germs will be spread, just like flu and cold season during the first semester in the winter. The stores and restaurants are limiting their customers to 10 people in their building. We have over 3,400 students in the district. What about the asymptomatic individuals who carry the virus with no symptoms? And this is my concern, because there are students or children who are asymptomatic, teachers who may be asymptomatic. They can pass it along to another student or individual and take it home to their parents or grandparents who have secondary health issues. What do we do for those students who have anxiety about the virus and have panic attacks? We have teenagers or middle schoolers and high schoolers who have panic attacks, and they're fearing this issue currently, and they fear getting sick while learning. So is there a plan in place for that situation? So here's another component. What is our plan if one of the student reports that they are positive for COVID-19 or their family member is positive? Do we shut down the district? Are we going to react and shut the entire district down? The reality is that any of thousands of students and teachers, along with custodians and staff who can pass the virus to any one of these individuals, poses a risk that would turn the plan upside down, and we would switch to online classes at that point. I am adamantly opposed to sending any one of our students or staff into an unforeseen and risky situation. I do not want them to be test subjects for what may or may not happen while we are still in an active pandemic. I want our students to have the best education, social and emotional interaction with their peers, along with the next person. Unfortunately, while we are not cleared from the virus or its path for the fall or winter weather, it's irresponsible to put our students and staff in a situation where we have no clear end or direction to the virus or its repercussions. We have approximately 3,400 students in the district. Think about that and what we have been told by the CDC and medical authorities regarding the limit of any type of gathering, There are currently proposals in the Senate regarding liability protection for K-12 schools for the duration of the pandemic, which we are still in, but there's no legislation at this time, so we as a district could be liable for decisions we make from day one. There's 2 studies that were conducted on different parts of the world that concluded that young children not only transmit COVID-19 efficiently, but may be major drivers of the pandemic as well. So I was given from one of the parents an article from Forbes magazine that reinforces what I was talking about, asymptomatic students, entitled New Evidence Suggests Young Children Spread COVID-19 More Efficiently Than Adults. The quote that I have from that article is children from ages 5 to 17 are as or possibly even more contagious than adults. Then opening schools in areas where daily rates of infection remain moderate to high is extremely risky and unwise. I apologize. I had to write everything down to keep everything organized. My position is to continue to monitor the increase in COVID-19 cases and proceed with the option to have students learn online through the online class platform Schoology and not the resource repository Atlas. Atlas was not intended for a district-wide student load for classroom learning. Schoology is. It is not what was presented to the students last semester. Last semester it was meetings online. Schoology is an online classroom format, which is what I was assuming since we approved it. We were going to place this as a rollout for students to learn in an online platform. I personally teach online, so I teach through online platforms like this, so parents can feel more comfortable knowing that this is a platform that they're going to get that interaction with teachers and their material. Nothing like Atlas. So I'm not sure where that came from. I never heard of it. So this is just my opinion. This option that I am presenting, the complete online, provides 100% safe and healthy measures for all of our students and our staff. And at this point, I do not want to risk even one student who can get the COVID-19 or staff. So there's risk for opening up the building. So I want to go with the option where there's 100% safety. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Green wanted to add something real quick before we move on to the next board member.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm reading the chat, and I think I confused some people, probably a lot of people. I want to make it clear, and maybe this will answer some of the questions in the chat. When I said we don't have money for teachers, my point is that if we had face-to-face and put teachers in the classroom and wanted to social distance, which means lower the class sizes, then we don't have the money in our budget. It may be sad, but it's true. We don't have the resources to hire 10 to 12 extra teachers to keep the class sizes down here and give you a virtual Southgate teacher. That was our dilemma. If we start fully remote, that means all Southgate teachers will be teaching your students remotely, and you would have a Southgate teacher teaching your students. You wouldn't have to have Atlas. Now, if you choose Atlas, I'm sure that would be an option. But if we started fully remote and we didn't have teachers in the classroom, okay, then you would have enough teachers, Southgate teachers, that would be teaching your classes virtually. And it will be different. The rules, Monday we were in school and Friday we weren't. And the governor had said at that point that we could not discipline students with grades at the held harmless law. Under remote learning now, attendance would be taken and grades would be required. So it would be definitely a different structure, and we've had more time to figure this out. So I hope that cleared some things up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. We'll go to our next speaker, our board treasurer, Rick Lamas.
Thank you, Tim. Hello, everybody. I'm not going to, there are many things that I've heard that I agree with, some things I've heard that I disagree with. So I'll be succinct and I'll maybe talk about a couple of things that I don't think have been brought up. We've all read the articles, we've seen the news, we've seen the news conferences. I'm certainly going to keep this apolitical. That is not my interest whatsoever, and it won't go that way. For every reason I see not to go, I see reasons to go back. If you read the Journal of Pediatrics and other medical opinions about child development, and I'm sure every teacher and every professional on this call and in our district knows the same. So I see an uncomfortable decision. Obviously, this is like you said, Andy, this is the toughest decision that I've ever had to even come close to. My family is being safe and prudent. We're active, but we're prudent. But this has really got nothing to do with me and everything to do with our teachers and our kids. So there's risk in being in the schools. There's risk in being outside of the schools. I want to talk about something I think that no one has brought up, and that is a couple facts about Southgate. And I'll read them off, and you'll see the common theme. So 29% of our families are female householders, which means single adult with children. 24.7% of our families receive food stamps. 15.4% of our students are below the poverty level. 22% of our families don't have broadband. So we have a challenge to take care of some of our disadvantaged folks in our community. And if they're not going to be face-to-face and don't have the resources to be able to be online, whether it's Atlas or Schoology or whatever it happens to be, we've got a community in our city that's very real that are going to have a hard time learning anything and being taken care of at all. So I agree with all the congratulatory comments from everyone else that's mentioned something, both visitors and parents, as well as the other board members, about how hard our COLT team has worked to try and put together a workable plan. I trust that Ms. Pastor and our COLT team and the rest of the staff will be able to operationalize, whether we're remote, combination remote and on-site. I trust their ability to teach and do it well. So I have made a decision to be between on-site or hybrid or remote only, but I'm going to leave the discussion. I'll listen to the rest of the comments, and maybe we'll have a little more specific response from the administration about how they'll handle some of the situations you folks have also described. But for the time being, I want everyone to think about that part of our community, because we have to serve them as well. And they aren't going to be served by any mobile or remote learning. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Lamas. And we'll go to our board trustee, Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to start off by saying I do recognize everybody's work, that's gone into where we've gotten so far. The whole purpose for having this meeting was because I feel that we didn't really get an opportunity to talk to each other about how we feel about starting. What do we think about starting? Do we think we want to be in classrooms? I mean, of course we do. We all want to be in classrooms, but do we feel that that's safe right now? And so I wanted to really thank everybody for trying to foster this conversation about what do we think is the best thing that we should do. So, and with that, I guess I'll just jump right in and say I would love to be face-to-face, but I don't think that's the best option right now. I don't think that's a safe option for our teachers, and I don't think that's a safe option for our kids. There will be challenges to what I think is the best thing to do, which is to put Southgate teachers in front of Southgate kids on a computer. I think that's the best choice and the best option that we can offer. And I would love to see this team's efforts going towards working something like that. What resources would you need? Who would we need to address? What problems would we need to overcome? Because we have put, from what I know, we have not put any time into that plan. And I think that's the plan that I would be supporting. And that's what I want to see again. And we reevaluate it at every opportunity we can, whether it's in a month or 6 weeks or whatever, we reevaluate. And when it's prudent to go to a different plan, that's when we make that choice. We have this discussion, or we do what we can to make it best. So again, I'll just restate what I'm thinking is that I believe the best way we can do this is with Southgate teachers online teaching our kids remotely. And I think that's the safest and the best path for everybody involved right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Excuse me, through the chair, this is Rick.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one comment I was thinking about. There's a lot of confusion between all the experts, and every day you read something different even from the same person, for goodness sakes. The one thing that is common, the one thing that I don't think has ever been disputed, is that this stuff is not going away. It's not going to be 3 months. It's not going to be 6. We've got a longer term problem here with this. So I think as we decide this, we have to keep that in mind. And if we're going to test a certain method, no matter which one it is, we have to keep in mind that things are going to continue to change. And we better start thinking a lot about the long term as well, because this stuff isn't going away. So we got to figure that out too. So thank you. Appreciate that, sir.
Mr. President, can I just make a comment?
Yes, go ahead. Dr. Pamponi.
As I mentioned, thank you. As I mentioned, the U.S. Department of Education is doing a grant with 11 states, and they're looking at different models, because I'm sure them, along with everyone else, is thinking the same thing that Mr. Lamas was saying, that it's a short-term thing, so it may continue for months and months. So they're currently funding a grant to rethink innovative approaches to creative virtual learning systems. So that's taking place at those 11 states, at this time. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. And now let's go to Board Trustee Neil Freitas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having 2 daughters that are in the school system or will be in the school system, and one who just graduated, being a teacher myself, I know that face-to-face works best. Back in September or back in March, when this whole thing started, everybody didn't know exactly what was going to come down the pike. And we were kind of stuck in this thinking we're going to go back in a couple weeks, we're going to go back in a couple weeks. And the governor pretty much forced our hand into how we could do the learning. If we start remotely, we're going to have more plans. We're going to have taken attendance daily, which Mr. Green said, better lessons online, attendance daily. So I think we'll be better prepared for it if we go back. First and foremost, children's safety is our concern. When I send my children to school in the morning, I expect to see them at night. That's our number one concern. And then learning is second, but safety is first. And right now, with Major League Baseball, with billions of dollars, they are having teams get COVID and not being able to play. That's alarming. And that's professionals that are supposed to social distance. That is professionals that are getting paid for it. They know their paychecks are tied to that. So if we do go back to face, it's not going to be exactly like 30 kids in a classroom, lunchroom, kids going crazy. It's going to be a lot different. So I think the best option right now might be to have our Southgate teachers, which I know will be up for the challenge. They will provide engaging lessons. It will be vastly different than in the springtime to end out the year because nobody knew what was coming down. But with enough preparation, the teachers will rise to the occasion and we're going to have some great lessons. The children will have a rigorous curriculum. I'm confident in the teachers to prepare that. Right now, with all the statistics that are coming out, whatever plan we have today is probably going to change in a week. It's going to change in 2 or 3 weeks because new data comes out. And as a teacher, whenever you get new data, you make adjustments to your lessons. And I know the teachers will be able to do that. So we have to have a plan in place by August 6th. And right now I'm leaning toward remote learning. Unless something else comes down between now and then, to change my mind, that's how I'm leaning right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fried. It's just a correction. I believe that we legally have to have a plan in place by the 11th, Ms. Pastor, or is it the 12th?
So I think what Mr. Freitas was talking about is we need our plan finished on the 6th to put into your board packets, and then you would make the final decision on the 11th.
Okay, I just want to make that clarification. Thank you. I'm going to ask now Mr. Green, because we all like to hear him speak, if he can read Mr. Sage's comments. Unfortunately, Mr. Sage, well, not unfortunately, Mr. Sage is currently coaching right now, so he couldn't attend tonight. He did submit some written statement prior, and Mr. Green will please read that for us.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is from board member Sean Sage, a friend of mine. Respect his opinion. I am not going to deviate at all. I'm going to read exactly his email as it was sent to our board president, Mr. Estheimer. Hello all. Unfortunately, I have an obligation on Monday evening during the meeting. If my obligation gets rained out, I will be able to attend the meeting. As I may not be there, I will share my thoughts regarding the upcoming school year. I'm typing this from my phone, so if it is not fluid, I apologize. I will do my best to attend, yet in the event I am not able to, I wanted to share these thoughts. Tim, feel free to read these comments to the public on Monday if necessary. As we are all aware, there are a million unknowns for everyone. Businesses, churches, schools, etc. are all dealing with these unanswered questions. We all want the safest educational options for our children, but as we should all be aware, there is no bulletproof plan. Obviously, online schooling would be the safest way to return to school, but is it the best? Question mark. Students also need the social, emotional aspect of in-school learning. Secondly, what about the children that may not have a stable home? It would be impossible to keep tabs on them and keep them safe. Lastly, this may be our best chance time-wise to get students back in front of teachers. With a second pike probable in November and December with the flu, this may be the only time it would be feasible to get our kids back in front of teachers. Taking into account that roughly 60% of the survey wants to go in school learning, it sounds as if, and I could be wrong, the teachers are not 100% confident with teaching online. Here are my thoughts. If the 60% attended in-school learning on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, like the new normal, they would then do online learning on Wednesday with the same teacher they're with on those days. At 60%, they would be socially distanced to some extent, and the Wednesdays would allow the teachers to test the waters each week if we had to go fully remote. This would pose an issue for some working parents, but there is no perfect solution. It is just a thought. Going off the survey results, the other 40% would choose the online option. If we choose to do full online learning or full in-school learning without a hybrid model for parents to choose from, there's a chance that we could lose some Southgate students to other districts. Another thought is that if now my first grader is told to wear a mask for the entire day as opposed to just in common areas, that would completely change my view on sending him to school. As hot as it is in some of the rooms with a mask on, I would hate to see one of these little ones pass out from heat exhaustion as they are not aware of the signs. I completely agree with Mr. Green that if this is a possible change, there must be another survey that goes out to parents. We need to be completely transparent. We will do everything we can to keep the children as safe as we possibly can while providing an excellent education as well as a social and emotional engagement. Thank you, Sean Sage.
Thank you for reading that, Mr. Green. All right, I think we've heard from all the board members, and now we'll just open it up to just general discussion. If anybody has anything to say. And as far as the board, I mean. Nobody's got anything?
This is
Yes.
Rick.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Rick.
Can I just have a comment from the administration about the efficacy of the remote learning styles that we could effectively implement, Atlas versus Schoology or any others? And if there would be a recommendation as to which would be most appropriate, or if there are choices. How's that for 6 questions in one? Sorry about that.
So do you want to save that to the question and answer session next, which is
Sure.
item number 2?
Yeah, no problem. Yes. I have no more comment, though, then I just have some questions.
Any other board members wish to make comment at this time before we move to the item 2?
Yes, Mr. Essen, have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So all the work that the COLT team has been working on, we recently approved the Schoology platform. Has that been integrated into their discussions? I don't know if they're on the line, or have they looked at that, talked about plans for Schoology, options for Schoology versus Atlas?
Ms. Pastor or Ms. Baker-Herring?
So again, would you like me to answer that now, or would you like to wait till we get to item number 2?
Sounds like we've already moved to item 2.
All right. Yeah, let's get into that in a minute, if that's okay with Dr. Pomponio.
Yeah, that's
I was thinking more of discussion along the lines of the item 1, which was just a just general board discussion. But if you have specific Q&As, yeah, we should hold those unless you have a question for a specific board member. But it looks like maybe it's time to move to item number 2, which is I don't have the agenda up on my phone here. I want to read it.
It's the original F1.
Yeah, let me grab that. So this is item number 2, which is question and answer. I mean, this is an update on the the SCSD preparedness for COLT leadership, and then we'll do questions and answers regarding the SCSD preparedness plan COLT leadership team. So, is there a general statement to be made by the COLT team, and or do they want to give us a brief update of anything they've been working on since our last meeting, and then we can move to Q&A?
I have a statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
So hello, and once again, thank you for inviting us to talk about what school may look like this fall. We've been working on a draft of our plan for weeks. This plan is aligned to the My School Safe Schools Michigan 2020-21 Return to School Roadmap. This is required. Please do not misunderstand that the COLT team, COLT leadership team, or myself believe that face-to-face instruction is 100% safe. The team followed the roadmap. On page 9 of the roadmap, under the heading, what are school opening scenarios for fall of 2020? Scenario number 4 states that schools do not open for in-person instruction, and instruction is provided remotely. That's if we're in phases 1 through 3. While scenarios 1 to 3, covering the phases 4, 5, and 6, states that schools open for in-person instruction with more stringent, moderate, or minimally required safety protocols. We must have a plan that matches this roadmap. So the question is, how are other school districts deciding to start 100% remote? I'm honestly not sure. There are a lot of unanswered questions. What will happen to our funding if we decide to start remote? What if families decide to leave Southgate to seek a district that will offer face-to-face, or as Mr. Firkus is now calling it, mask-to-mask instruction? Our family and staff surveys are honestly split. We have people asking if it's unsafe to gather indoors of not more than 10, why aren't schools included in this list? The roadmap has some big challenges. For example, under cleaning, it is required that student desks must be wiped down with either EPA-approved disinfectant or diluted bleach solution after every class period. And staff must wear gloves, surgical masks, and a face shield when performing all cleaning activities. How will our staff mask up and wipe all student desks in 5 to 6 minutes while helping to remind students to socially distance and wear their masks properly? How do we make the 60% who want face-to-face instruction happy? Do these families understand that school will look and feel very differently? Since last Tuesday, the major change to our plan includes that young 5s to 5th grade will wear masks all day, except while eating. We believe that this is safer for students and staff. Lastly, I want to say that I spoke to 2 beautiful Anderson students on Saturday, a freshman who actually wants to come back face-to-face because she believes she learns that way best, and a junior who would prefer to go back online. This is a difficult decision. There is no way to make everyone happy. We are looking for a direction so that we can inform our families and staff. What questions do you have for the Colt leadership team?
Thank you. Hey, I just have a quick question. I don't think we received it email-wise, but is there an update to the parent survey? Because you just alluded to a 60-40, and I'm not sure that was where it was last. So I'm just asking that question. You can get back to it. And then we'll just go around the room. And the board members have any specific questions? Let's start with Neil. You did have a specific question, and then we'll go to Dr. Pomponio's question. Or no, it was Rick. Pardon me. Rick had a question, and then we'll go to Dr. P. Rick?
Yes, thank you. So if we were to opt for remote, is there more than one choice? What is the best choice, and which would you recommend we operationalize to make the most of not being face-to-face?
So if we are completely remote, it allows our classroom teachers to teach the classes from their homes into the children's homes or from school if they so choose. The difficulty is if at some point, say October 15th, the governor says we have to come back face-to-face, or you lose funding at that point, do families then have to decide school is not safe for me, and therefore the option would then be Atlas at that point? That's a difficult decision that maybe families would rather make if they're forced into making that at that point. The idea is that a teacher could not necessarily be in charge of 10, 15, 20 students in class and also have to go home and work remotely with those students that couldn't be face-to-face. So that is a challenge. I do believe our teachers are up for they have been working with Schoology. Dr. Baker Herring's had numerous online sessions. We are doing a train the trainer sessions, and they are working, and the staff is split, but there are many that believe that it obviously is safer to be remote.
So I have one more question through the chair. Can we be ready with the remote approach you just described? Can we be ready to start school on time with a remote approach?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I like that.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Dr. Pomponio.
Thank you. Okay, so back to my question about Schoology. Was that even ever approached in the Colt meetings at all? Because I was under the impression that with our discussion about remote learning, that we're going to use the online classroom platform, Schoology. So, and this is something totally different from Atlas. So have they touched on looking at that? I mean, we just approved it. So where is that sitting right now with Schoology? Because you just mentioned Atlas again. And I'm not even in support of Atlas because the classroom learning should be in a classroom platform. So can you help me understand where we are with this and Schoology?
I'm going to let Dr. Baker Herring answer that question because she's been involved in all the trainings.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So we've probably had, I don't know, maybe 6 meetings with the trainers for Schoology. And then we have rolled out the overall district training for getting started with Schoology to all staff. setting up an additional training session next Tuesday for staff to practice some of the, techniques to use with Schoology. So I think, part of the reason why we were discussing Atlas is what, Ms. Passer referred to. So if we know that there's families that really are not comfortable sending their student back, even if we start remote with all of our teachers, and I think we need to reiterate that again, as everyone has said, there is just no other option that would be better to be safe. So, for sure, we would really want to have as many of our Southgate teachers doing that as possible. We just were, talking and discussing about at the point where we do go back face to face, and there should be still families that are uncomfortable with that for whatever reason, to then have those teachers have to maintain, regular school day interactions with the face-to-face students or mask-to-mask students, and then have to come home and work remotely at night. That would not be realistic. So we wanted those families to still have the option for Atlas if they knew that at no point in time were they going to be comfortable sending their student back face-to-face. So Schoology is definitely in the works. It's many staff have started the training already. Many have completed the training. So the message that was sent is that it's required. All staff will use it. Even if we are face-to-face, Schoology is still going to be our platform on how we work with parents and families with communication and sharing content. So definitely that is in the works.
Okay, and the other thing is, was that in the survey, as far as online classroom platform as opposed to Atlas? Was that given the option for parents or no? Because I know that
we didn't include it in the survey because at the time, and I think it's still what we're saying, if we're still offering parents an option for face-to-face and online, that we need that option, that teachers will not have to do both. So that is why we didn't offer it at that time, because we were, based on those parent surveys, thinking that we were looking for an option for face-to-face to start.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff? From the board? Mr. Sage, I believe, joined us. There he is. Mr. Sage, I know you've come late, and I've tried to update you a bit via text, but this is a time in the board meeting where we're talking about, we've already went around the room and kind of got a feel, so we've got a feel from where you stand based on your letter that Mr. Green has read.
Okay.
But this point of the meeting, we're just doing a Q&A. If you had any questions that you had cocked and loaded as far as for the staff, maybe that wasn't a good way to say that. If you have any questions for staff, now would be the time.
Well, I guess the one question is during one of the COLT meetings, I believe that they had mentioned that it could be K through 5 wearing masks now. Is that a fair statement or is that not a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'd be with Andy Green on making sure that all of the parents are aware of that, because on the survey I don't believe that was the case at the time. Because I do believe that would change a lot of people's opinions on whether they'd be sending the little ones to school or not, as far as the survey is concerned. So that was one question that I had. And then I obviously I've been updated. I apologize for being late. I had an obligation with football that just got done, so I do apologize for that. So that was the one question that I had that I wanted to make sure didn't change. Or are we going to be doing another survey, or is that not the case? Or is this kind of determined?
If the board's direction under action item number 3 is to direct our COLT team to focus on starting remotely, then to me, there would be no need to do another survey. We would be offering remote instruction with our Southgate teachers. And we need to make sure that we make it clear that your intent would be that you would stay remote with the Southgate teachers as long as we were possibly able to do that, unless we're going to put a time limit on it, unless the state changes our mind. And in which case, I have to say again, that if the state forces our hand and we have to go face to face, there may be families or children that are not able to attend due to immune compromised or other things.
Correct, right. Okay. And then is there going to be a checks and balances for each teacher? Because I know, at least from my personal experience, that you had some teachers who did a ton and some teachers who didn't do as much. So what are the checks and balances from the teaching side if we're going remote fully? Is it an everyday check-in with everyday teacher, or how? These are questions that I don't know.
Michelle.
So, yeah, if you don't mind. In our plan, if you do, I believe Mrs. Pastor shared the link with our draft of our plan. So there is a remote learning plan in there. There's a link that specifies exactly what our plan is for remote learning. And within that, it does have some curriculum and instruction and assessment expectations where assessment is addressed, grading is addressed, mastery learning is addressed, and also along the, actually it's in that remote learning plan as well, times of the day that elementary students will be contacted for that live synchronous lesson, middle school, high school, times for office hours for teachers, the expected amount of time that students would be online based on grade band or age level. There's a lot of remote learning best practices that we're sharing with staff, but that document is in there. You're able to see that with that link. And I think that does try to give some frame around what the expectations will be. Part of the plan also requires us to have regular checkpoints with administration so that they are also having regular checkpoints with their staff to see, how are these students meeting the priority standards that they've designed for their content. So, there definitely is more of a checks and balances, as you say, beginning in the fall if we are remote.
Okay, because I just got a few more questions. I'm so sorry for being late to this thing, but so the checks and balances, what if you can't contact a kid? So for instance, you have some children that you couldn't get a hold of, from March until June because of whatever reason. And obviously you do have children that are at risk in certain factors. How are we handling that if we can't even touch base with these kids?
Yeah, I think we've talked about in our plan, it does say that we have our support staff that are available, whether it's MTSS or social workers, counselors, interventionists, specialists. We do have a variety of support staff that will also help assist teachers if they aren't able to get a hold of them, if students aren't showing up for Google Meets. I also know it wasn't unheard of that some of our students or our teachers drop things off on parents' porches. So, I'm sure there would be some way that, they would try to do whatever they could to reach out to those students that they haven't heard from.
I also want to say that in the spring, we were not able to provide one Chromebook for every student in the district. And we also did not provide very many hotspots for families that didn't have internet. That is required that if we're in, first of all, we decided to be a one-to-one district. So each student will have a Chromebook assigned to them. And then those families that need those hotspots, we will be purchasing those and allowing families to check them out, so to speak.
Okay. And just two more quick questions. One is, do we know where all the teachers stand with this? How do they feel about being fully remote or not being in the classroom? I don't know if, I know there's some questions were answered, but they're the ones teaching our kids. Where are we at with them?
I can, I don't know if Ryan Furcus is on, but I'm going to let Ryan answer that question.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I did send out a survey on Friday to all of the teaching staff, and again, that's just the teacher union. It doesn't encompass everybody that works for us, but it's about 200 people, and we got about 160 responses back. And of those responses, over 2/3, their choice was to be in a remote learning session. Of the 33 roughly percent that said that they preferred to come to school, that was with the understanding of 6 feet in between students at all times and all wearing masks, and those safety protocols strictly enforced the entire day. But a vast majority of the teaching staff both feel safer and feels like they can do a better job in a remote fashion.
Okay. For me, obviously it's common sense that the online is the safest version, but my only question is it the best for the kids? And obviously these are crazy times. We want the kids as safe as possible, but with the social emotional aspect of everything, it's, you know, it weighs on my mind too. So I appreciate your time with that.
Anything else, Sean, or is that it?
No, that's it.
All
I have
right.
a question, Tim.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms.
I don't know if it's Pastor or Dr. Baker Herring. The last time that we purchased the Chromebooks for students before we had the students come and pick up their Chromebooks, were we left with students that didn't have a Chromebook? Because what Jill just mentioned, I'm not sure where we're sitting with that. So does every student that needed a Chromebook have one, or how did we leave that? Are there students currently that don't have a Chromebook? Access to a computer?
We only distributed Chromebooks to those students who indicated that they needed them, or at the K-5 level, 6-8, that had some speech requirements. So there were students who needed them for those reasons. We were able to distribute them to those students. But it is our hope. We do have another, I think the number is 860 Chromebooks ordered, and hopefully they'll be here. August 15th is the day that they should be arriving to get set up for us for the fall, where our fingers are crossed that they will be here on time. And then at that point, every single student in the district would have access to a mobile device. Hotspots are a different story. We do have to still place those orders as needed, but it is our hope that those 860 are here by the start of school.
Okay, because I thought that each student was fully had a computer based on, you know, them having to go online last semester. So I thought everything was cleared up with each student having access, or, you know, so for Jill saying that there's not enough who wasn't learning or getting that information or getting their, you know, access to the internet back in the spring.
K-8 did not have online. We provided them packets. So K-8 was not technically online this spring, just 9-12.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask?
Yeah, Mr. Craig.
So I have a question for Ms. Pastor and Dr. Baker Herring. I think I've heard both of you say that you think I guess I don't know if you said you think, or the speculation is that the governor will order everybody into school sometime in October or threaten funding. Is that based on something you've heard or some documentation we've gotten, or is that speculation?
No, so there's no threat from the governor as far as that goes. So, for example, there's a bill currently in the legislation that actually calls for us to come back to school K-5 in-person instruction, or we will risk funding. So there's lots of talk going on, Jason. There's nothing specific or not anything imminent. If you would have asked me on March 13th if I would have thought we would have been out for the entire school year, I probably would have told you no. We had a lot of people who were disappointed that we weren't going to move our spring break, because that was when it was scheduled, because they thought we should move it up a week and then come back to school if that was the case. So this is unprecedented. I know what the president and our Secretary of Education has said at the federal level. And I know that our governor is also concerned about student safety. I am going to be surprised if she doesn't move us to phase 3 so that all students can start remote, or at least start remotely in most areas where there is a definite risk of COVID-19.
When phase 3, we don't just can start remote, we have to start remote, correct?
That's correct.
So, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. So thank you.
I've got one more, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Sage.
So with no timeline, if we're talking fully remote per se, have we talked about trimesters? Are we just waiting for a guideline from the governor on how long this goes till, or is it limitless? When does this come to an end? Number one, and number two is if the governor does say we go back to phase 3 and we're fully online, and then we can go back to school at some point. What do they still have a choice to do Atlas or another program if they don't feel comfortable? They're immunosuppressed or whatever it may be.
So I know that there are different districts that are releasing different options. So for example, whether it's the first 10 weeks or the first 5 weeks. So it depends on what the plan actually says. So at this point, for example, I know Melvindale, Northern Allen Park is talking about remote until the beginning of next year. So their first full semester. So I guess it depends on each district. And again, we don't know what other options or other requirements might come down, not options, but requirements might come down from either the legislation or the Michigan Department of Education.
So if we were told, if the students, if I'm a parent and my child's immunosuppressed and they say, okay, we decide that, okay, the kids are going back into school, can they still make that choice to go to Atlas or an online program at that point?
Yes, we have talked to the teachers, and Ryan Furcus can talk to this, but we do not logistically know how we can have a face-to-face teacher. And so for 10 kids that come face-to-face, and then what do we do with the 8 students that are immune compromised or their family and they cannot attend or will not attend? So that's where a little bit of a hiccup comes in. But what I would say is that if this board decides to go remote, that will be a problem that I guess we will have to solve when the time comes.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Green.
Not so much a question, but just reading the comments and listening. First of all, I think, again, I want to reiterate that, the Colt team had to prepare a plan for stage 3, 4, and 5, remote, virtual, and if we're in stage 5. So that has to be done. We have to present that. So all these phases have to be presented. And Dr. Baker Herring spearheaded it with the Colt leaders, and they did a wonderful job under the circumstances. And I've seen a lot of those plans and understand, and they're not foolproof. Ms. Pastor has extremely valid points. We're taking a risk here. If we're the only school district in this area, we're taking a risk by making this decision of remote. If that's the way we're going, if other districts aren't doing it, that's weighed on my mind. I spoke with Mr. Furcus and made it, and I think he'll attest to it. I put it out there. I said, you do realize, and the teachers realize that, when we get back to normal, hopefully soon, then if we do lose a good portion of students that want to go face-to-face and we don't recruit them, the aftermath down the road may be layoffs. So this isn't without risk. And as Ms. Pastor has said, and I think I mentioned, remember, if the government passes any law that we have to at least offer face-to-face, then we have to go back. So it has to be a fluid situation. So those plans have to be in place. That's the comment I wanted to make. The one thing that I don't know if we have an answer to, and maybe Ms. Pastor knows, is a parent is wondering if we start fully remote, is the lunch is still going to be provided by the state, probably in the pickup mode of Tuesdays or whatever, by the school district. I don't have an answer to that, but maybe somebody can answer that for me.
Yes. So we will continue. My guess would be from the June 7 meals or 7 breakfast and 7 lunches to be picked up on Tuesdays would be my guess, not having spoken to Mark Rodriguez about this being a possibility. That would be my guess. There would be no way that we would feel comfortable not offering that to families, as I helped distribute those meals every Tuesday and know that they were indeed needed for our families.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask another question? I apologize. And I think this was talked before in the Colt meeting, and Andy and I talked a little bit about this, but if we go fully remote, hypothetically, in the MHSAA, how does that, is that different sports? I know the MHSAA is a private organization. Are we on the mindset that kids can be online learning but can still do sports? Because I'm sure that's a lot of parents' minds.
It is my understanding that they can participate in sports while they're learning remotely. in accordance with the Michigan High School Athletic Association's guidelines.
Is that even in phase 3 though?
No.
No,
Yeah,
no.
correct.
Yeah. If we're in phase 3, there are no athletic events.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Green.
I mean, that obviously is a different, a discussion we're going to have, but other school districts, I do not know what Melvindale's doing. I can speak for West Bloomfield High School, just off the top of my head, is allowing their students to participate. As Mr. Sage said, the MHSAA is a separate entity. They make their own decisions. And as of right now, as of the other day, they are allowing schools that go remotely to participate in sports. So that would be a parental decision. That would be a school district's, decision of how they're handling it. So, I mean, again, that's another decision to another discussion to be had.
Yeah, I spoke with the coach of the football, the wrestling team, and they are allowing their children, even though they're going to be remote, they're still conditioning right now. So that's in Melvindale. All right. Any other comments or questions amongst board members?
I just got
All
one,
right.
probably the
Go
most
ahead.
I opened the meeting. I want all the parents to know that it weighs on every single one of us, the safety of the children. From the heart, I've got 4 kids. I know 1 million people in this district, and every board member that's on here, Jill Pastor, we speak volumes of you, and we're looking out for the best interest of the kids. Whether it's the best decision, we know what's the safest, what's the best. I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that every single board member on here has invested a ton of time. Jill Pastor, Michelle Baker Herring, all the staff have been all over this. The Colt team, nobody's sitting on their hands with this. There's unfortunately no bulletproof plan. I wish there was. Same with every business and every church and everything else. But everybody on this call, first of all, thank you for being there with your parent, and everybody that's on here cares about these kids. And there's no easy answer. There's no bulletproof answer. So everybody that's on here is doing everything they can. So somebody might not like it. I may not like it, but everybody on here has the best interest of the kids at heart. And I just want to say that real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Sage. All right, let's move on to the last in this series is number 3. Mr. Craig, what was your intent with this? I didn't get it at the time. Is this an actual vote, or is this by how are we handling this item 3?
Yeah, I would see this as an action item where anybody can offer up a motion. That motion can be discussed and then be voted on.
All right. So as I remember, this action item that you presented was recommendation to staff to prepare for a plan for the board's direction and return to learn. Correct?
That would be my
Close enough?
that would be my take on it. That was not part of the agenda. Part of the agenda was just to provide direction to administration. So it would depend on a motion and support and a vote before we know which way it goes.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get into is I don't have it in front of me, so I couldn't remember how that was how you entered that onto the record. So if you want to read that and speak to that first, that'd be great.
So yes, I'll reread the item. It was to provide direction to administration on what the board expects for the start of school.
All right. Do you want to speak to that or make a motion to that matter?
I don't have to go first. I can if nobody else has anything to say. But
I just have one question, if I can, for Ms. Pastor. If in fact the board gives direction to prepare for remote, and since we have a short period of time to be able to have a plan and then vote on the plan, is there enough time for you to do that without too much uncertainty?
So essentially, we already have the remote plan because of phases 1, 2, and 3. We have to have a plan in case of ever coming back face to face. So we'll have to make some tweaks to our plan to say things about starting remotely, but we are fully prepared and the Colt leadership team already has a meeting tomorrow morning to react to what your direction is this evening. And then we are meeting as a Colt team on Wednesday to put the final touches on it, to bring it to the board. There are over 140 plus people on this call. I think that teachers and administrators may be sleeping better tonight, having a direction that they believe is the safest route. We know it's not everyone's favorite, but we definitely know it's the safest.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, well, I have a question about schooling in general.
No.
Who's speaking?
No.
William Marquis, 2 kids in Southgate.
Can't.
I'm sorry. This point of the meeting, we don't we have no longer have a spot. That was early in the meeting for to ask questions or give comment. You're welcome to participate in the chat, but this is the part of the meeting that's the board members are speaking. So I apologize that we can't hear your question or comment over the air, so to speak.
Okay.
Any other board members have questions for staff or comments? I will say I started off this saying that I was on the fence and I wanted to hear from everybody before I made a decision. And after reading the chats and after going through the dozens of emails that I had prior to this, but after solidifying it by listening to the staff results and by hearing from my fellow board members and hearing from the chat that's going on here and the questions and comments that were asked early in the meeting, I'm in favor of virtual as well starting. And that's, as everyone has said so far, a very, very, very difficult decision. But that's where I am now. I promised I would get back to you after listening, and that's where I'm at. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Craig.
I'd like to offer a motion. I move that the board directs the administration to prepare the district for online only with our teachers conducting classes remotely.
Thank you. Is there a second? And that's so we have a motion by Mr. Craig and a support by Dr. Pomponio.
May I say something before you go any?
Yeah, go ahead for discussion. Go ahead.
So my only concern is that there are students that are already enrolled in Atlas, and I just want you to think about that action item may eliminate that availability for those students who are using it for credit recovery and other things.
Mr. President?
Can I let Mr. Craig speak first?
Sure.
When I'm talking about the remote option, I'm talking in place of the in place or the face-to-face school. So of course, somebody could have done Atlas 2 years ago. They could have done Atlas last year. And if they want to do Atlas this year, that's fine. I just don't want that to be their only option for remote learning. This is not to eliminate Atlas as an option. Atlas is still an option if that's what somebody wants to do. This is the goal of my motion is to eliminate the face-to-face portion.
Mr. Green?
We're in discussion here?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with Mr. Craig. For some people, the Atlas program works. And if that's the option that they want, I think they can still do that. But now I believe that the motion is basically that we're going to start remote and not have face-to-face instruction and then reevaluate the situation. Of course, if the government tells us we have to do something, we have to, but the Atlas option is a motion. I want to reiterate what a lot of us have said in Mr. Sage. And I think, I don't have the agenda in front of me, that there's employee chance to talk later, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't, I don't know. And what Mr. Lamo said, this is extremely difficult. This is the hardest thing I've ever done for me and for all of us. We have been on the phone with community members, teachers, surveys, superintendent, the human resource director, curriculum director, talking to each other 6 a.m. to, I'm telling you, to midnight. It's been exhausting. It's not an easy decision. We know we're not going to make everyone happy. We've vetted this. We care about the kids. All of us do, even if we differ on some of our opinions. Every one of us, and I think everyone that's in this chat cares about your children and the direction of what you want for your children, unless you wouldn't be on this chat spending 2 hours on a computer call. It's not the most optimal regular school situation. We understand that, but at this point, it's a tough decision that I think we're trying to make here, based on all this back and forth with each other and talking to people and seeing what we can come up with. So and believe me, that Colt team that's going to lay some of these plans out, they're phenomenal. Some of the stuff they went through and the hours they spent on it. I mean, you got the Southgate teachers, and I know other districts that are working on plans. You have Southgate teachers that are working a heck of a lot harder than some other districts to put these plans together.
On their summer vacation. Thank you. Mr. Sage.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Andy Green's saying. I guess one question that I have, and same with you, Tim, I was on the fence, and again, is it the safest online? For sure. Okay. Is it the best? I wholeheartedly can't answer that question. So I guess the question that I have up for discussion is, would there be any time to be able to, we surveyed the parents, right, to get their ideas of where they were. This survey's where we're at now is nowhere where we were. Is there not enough time to do another survey? Or are we spinning our wheels? I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm not trying to be a thorn in anybody's side, but this is a decision that it's a big decision for everybody.
I don't think that we have time to do another survey with the specific motion that's on the table today or right now.
Well, the motion dictates what we're doing, correct?
Correct. But if this motion carries tonight, then that supports the direction of virtual learning. So essentially the decisions have been made. I don't think we have time for a survey or parent input is my point.
Right. I was not the assumption for voting at all today, so I was misinformed. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, or anybody.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sorry. Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I believe that, we technically have until next Tuesday, right? Or if we want to finalize plans, the Colt team in a couple of days, we don't have to vote till next Tuesday. We could vote, no right now, but I think the point, and I even think Ms. Pastor has been, up all night, and Dr. Baker Herring too, and have had sleepless nights also, like the rest of us. To get direction gives some clarity of where we're heading, and the more time, if this board makes this decision tonight, it also gives teachers another 8 days to start moving forward to know exactly what they're dealing with. So I guess no, if we say no tonight, then it leaves us in limbo. But we have to have an answer by next Tuesday. That's the decision.
Anybody else? Any other board members have questions for staff or wish to discuss the motion?
Hey.
Go ahead, Mr. Craig.
So again, just to clarify, this is not a decision on what we're doing. This is providing direction to staff on what we expect the plan to look like when we see that, to make a decision next week.
Okay, so thanks for the clarification.
There's no way making a decision on what we're doing. This is providing direction to administration so they know what we expect. And again, I don't want this to sound like I'm discounting the Atlas program, because we could have a student bouncing back and forth between Atlas classes and classes taught remotely by a teacher. I mean, I could very easily see that, where you have a kid spending two classes in an Atlas program and then 4 classes in front of a teacher in the computer. So this is not in any way to discount the Atlas program or replace it. It is meant to work with it. So
thanks for that clarification. And after hearing that, and Mr. Sage's request for a survey, Ms. Pastor, that may not be a bad idea. As we're heading into this decision, it would probably be best to have as much buy-in or as much input from our parents that we already heard from our teachers. And I believe that the unions reached out and has a similar survey, or they did. He said 2/3. So is that something that we could do and have ready for us by the next meeting?
We could do another survey. I just don't know what the purpose would be if this school board's direction is that to have a plan to start remote. I think that it's more important that we get the information to parents to allow them to make arrangements to be in that situation than it is to ask them if the school board's direction is for us to start remote in our plan.
Jill, can I jump in for 1 second? I just want to make sure we're clear that our plan that we have to submit to you for approval is a remote learning plan and a face-to-face plan. So if you're saying you're giving us direction to have a remote learning plan, we do have that.
Mr. President,
I'm sorry. Did you, will you let Dr. Baker-Herring finish her thought?
I thought she was done. I said I was sorry.
No, I mean, I was close, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we do really have a remote learning plan already in place and a face-to-face, but with your direction, it would really help us moving forward with planning for staff and families. So to say that you're giving us direction or plan to have a remote learning plan, that's required. You will have a remote learning plan to vote on, but we also have to have a face-to-face plan.
Mr. Green?
I was going to reiterate what Dr. Baker-Herring said. I mean, if you've looked at, and I've looked at it, and I know a lot of us have, if you really dig deep, phase 3 is a remote learning plan. We have to have that. That's been worked on from the Colt team. So to say we're giving them direction, I don't think as this has evolved in the last hour and a half is what we need. They have that plan. I think we need to let our teachers know to prepare as soon as possible, and we need to let our parents know so they can make adjustments to, how, if, with many of them working, how it is going to look for them and give them as much time to do what they need to do. And again, if the state tells us we can't do it, then we know that it's fluid and we're going to have to move back. But I don't think we need to give them direction. I think at this point, they need something a little bit more solidified, the parents and the teachers in the school district. And I think we need to make a vote. And the motion's going to be that we have made a decision tonight to go remote. I think that's where we need to be.
Mr. Craig?
Can I ask one question for clarification from Mr. Craig or whoever is making the motion? Is there any thought on a timeline for parents when we'll reevaluate, relook at it, rethink the situation? I think that might help so that we're not guessing when those things are going to happen as well.
That's why I'm being careful to tell you that this is direction to that group that needs to bring all of that back to us next week. This is the framework. I need you guys to fill out the frame now. What does that mean? How does that work? And if I haven't made it clear, and again, the motion I think is I'm not interested in a face-to-face option. I don't know how I can afford to do that. I don't know how I can afford to have 12 kids in a classroom and do teachers online learning and do the Atlas. That's why I have this direction. So this is framework. That's why I phrase this as direction to the administration. And that's the framework that I expect you guys to fill out come into the next meeting.
See, and Mr. President,
yes.
I still think we need to be more specific tonight. We're spinning our wheels. I mean, let's make a decision. Let's make a decision. What about, and I'm just throwing it out there, make a motion that we are going to be remote for the first card marking or for the first, not the semester, the first card marking, which would be 8-10 weeks, and then reevaluate from that point. If the state makes a decision and forces our hand one way or another, then we have to do what they have to say anyway. So I don't see the harm in letting the teachers and the parents know that we're choosing tonight to go remotely for the first quarter and move on from there. That's that's what I feel. I think we need to make that decision at this point.
Mr. President, I have a comment. Okay, I think that if we're going to set direction, I think that we need enough time to look at where this virus is going, because that's the first and foremost thing that we're discussing here is safety. So I would suggest or recommend until January so we can get all of these things under our belt. We can look at what's happening, the direction, and the flu and cold season. So I would say until January. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Just a point of order, there is a motion on the table that's been supported. That's what we're discussing. I would love to make a declaration and make an opinion tonight stronger than what I've done, but I think we've all relayed that with our comments and our messages. But again, I'm not prepared to move a plan because I don't have the plan with the framework in front of me. So that's what I want to get in a week. But I think our message has been pretty clear. We were all pretty vocal in how we felt about where we should be going. And if there's any question as to what we're going to be supporting next week, I would ask somebody to go back and rewatch the beginning of the meeting.
Mr. Lamas, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up earlier.
Yes. So just to be clear, we have, to Ms. Herring, we have a plan for either of the eventualities, right? Either of the stages, including remote, including on-site.
Yes.
Is one of our remote plans include something other than Atlas?
Yes. So I think there's so many different terms that we use. It's hard to know when we're talking about remote, we're talking about, synchronous, asynchronous. So Atlas is 100% asynchronous, which means a student can access the content for that learning management system anytime, day or night. So while that does work for some, we know that for most, face-to-face live synchronous instruction with teachers that are in our district is better. So it just depends what the needs are. If we know we're going remote tonight, I will tell you that teachers tomorrow, teachers in about, whenever this meeting's over, will breathe a sigh of relief. They will be able to then switch their mindset to say, what if we're face-to-face? Do I plan for this online? But we might be face-to-face. How much time do I invest? If we are able to relieve those, anxieties about the unknown, I think it will really set plans in motion, and they will be ready to rock on September 1st. But with us every day and each meeting, and we meet regularly, I don't know, probably 2 to 3 times a week with that group. And today's meeting was, they were really struggling of the unknown. So I'm just, that is what I feel you. I know the difficulty in the decision. We do have a remote learning plan. We have a face-to-face plan, but we still don't really have direction for teachers to say, this is how you need to start investing your time on your summer vacation, how to invest your time in planning for the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to, through the chair, so if Mr. Craig wants to reiterate the motion to make sure that we're all on the same page with that in mind, then we're probably in a position we could vote on it. But
Yep. That's what I was going to suggest. Yeah, Mr. Craig, if you can restate the motion, and then we'll call the question, or actually have Teresa roll call vote that.
Sure. I move that the board directs the administration to prepare the district for online only with our teachers conducting classes remotely. And again, if you need a clarification, it is that Atlas will still continue as an option. This is not meant to replace Atlas.
Right. Thank you. And Teresa, will you roll call vote that, please?
we need to get a support.
We already have a support, Dr. Pomponio.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
No.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. The yeses have it. All right. That's the end of our board meeting.
Can I make one more comment?
No. Yes, you can.
Thank you. It's been a tough night, and thank you to everybody. Sean, I hear you. This just tears my heart out. We're doing this. Tears my heart out. So, but I think we've got a decision. So thanks to everybody, from Ms. Pastor, all the folks on Colt, and all the parents, and of course, Ms. Krahowski and the rest of the board. Thank you.
And can I add one thing?
Yes.
And though my decision was not the same as the majority, that does not mean I don't support the majority's decision by any way, shape, or form. The board works as a fluid team. Though we may differ in some opinions, that's why there's a board. That's why we work together and bounce things off. Just because I said no does not mean I'm not fully in support of what the process is. But we move forward as a team. Whatever decisions made as a team, we said that from the beginning. And it makes it tough. I appreciate all the co-members, all the parents on this, and we're doing it for the kids. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Any other board members wish to speak? All right. I also wanted just to thank also, as I did in the beginning, the parents, the staff, the administrators, the superintendent, the COLT team, and of course, my fellow board members. It's been reiterated several times that this was a very difficult decision, and it was. My no, I was hesitating because I was thinking of more of a Andrew Green model with a more specific date, but this is how we voted, and this is how, and I hope that our staff, teachers and administrators have better and more clear direction so they can plan better moving forward. And I look forward to hear the final plan next Tuesday. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Hestheimer, Mr.
Yes,
President, do we not have on this agenda, I missed it, for employee comments?
No, there's not.
In any of our board meetings, aren't there always room for employee comments? Why is that not on the agenda? I'm confused.
I don't know. You asked me a question. I gave you an answer. I didn't see it.
It was not done on purpose. It was an oversight.
So I do believe you need to let employees speak if they want to.
If we can do that legally without it being an agenda item, I don't have a problem with that.
It would be inappropriate. I appreciate the point of it, but it would be inappropriate. They had an opportunity to speak during public comment, and at this point, you'd be modifying a set agenda.
I think
I'm not the agenda police, but.
And in these days and times, I agree it's against all the orders, but I don't think anybody is going to come out at us for letting employees speak if they want to, and they might not want to, but to not let them have a voice if they want to in this day and age of what's going on, I can't agree with that.
In the beginning of the meeting, there was a spot where you could have added that as an agenda item, I suppose, or pointed it out. But
Mr. President, let's be honest. Let's throw that out the window. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I'm not saying that I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Excuse me, you're out of order. I'm not suggesting that I don't want parents, or I won't want teachers to respond. I'm trying to go by the rule of our agenda. I don't have a problem listening to teachers if they wish to respond. But as it was pointed out, it's inappropriate and it's a violation.
So who's in all this going on? You think somebody's going to come after us because we're letting teachers speak? Sometimes because you shouldn't do something or because you're bending the rules a little bit, you have to be a little bit more realistic about the reality of the situation.
I understand.
If it's your choice, you're the president. I will be totally incensed that we would not let teachers speak at this point.
I'm not sure if it is my choice, but if teachers wish to speak, I'm sure that they can speak now. And if somebody wants, we have an overruling motion, then that's going to have to be called.
Mr. Green, if you wanted to offer a motion, I think you could do that.
I very strongly make a motion to give the opportunity for teachers to speak if they wish to do so.
Support by
Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion on that item? All right, roll call vote to add this to our agenda to allow teachers to speak, as it was inadvertently left off.
Hang on.
Sure.
Just when you thought we were going to adjourn, right, Teresa?
No, I couldn't get my microphone to come up. Mr. Green.
Yes, and I still love Mr. Hestheimer.
Mr. Lamos.
Yes, and I have to step away for a little bit.
Dr. Pomponio.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Sage.
Yes, 100%.
Mr. Hestheimer.
I will say yes, but just to be clear, this wasn't anything about trying to keep a teacher silent. This was trying to stick to an agenda. So yes is my answer.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
All right. And now at this time in the meeting, it's 9:19. We'll allow teachers to speak. I believe, since it's not on the agenda, I don't have the guidelines, but isn't it 3 minutes, Joe?
We're making it up as we go.
Your microphone's not on.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
So
Andy.
here we go.
I'm sorry, I had to admit somebody that wanted to join us. There hasn't been any rule in the past to limit them to 3 minutes.
All right. Well, let's open the floor then. If you're a teacher with Southgate Schools and you wish to speak, now would be the time to do so. Let's keep it concise and make sure that you turn your microphone on to speak and turn it off when you're done.
Hi, this is Ryan Furcus.
How are you, Mr. Furcus? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. I don't have anything that probably warrants the heated debate. In order to talk, I just wanted to thank the board and everybody on the Colt that I've been a part of most of them, but not all of them. And again, a reoccurring theme that kept coming up in our meetings. I'm sure it came up quite a bit in the board discussions and on the thread. It came up over and over again that our number one responsibility is not educating the kids; it's to keep the kids safe. And there's no doubt in my mind that the vote today did that. It kept kids safe. It kept the staff safe. So I appreciate that. And I hear I'm a parent as well, and I have sent many an email to the district that my child goes to, and that's been my question: how are you going to keep my son and daughter safe? And I have not gotten answers back yet that I'm satisfied with. Where I'm prepared to send my own kids back into that environment. So I appreciate that. I also know that face-to-face is better educationally. I mean, everyone knows that, but as Ms. Pastor pointed out today, it kind of came to all of us in that meeting that it's not going to be face-to-face. It's going to be mask to mask and shield to shield and glove to glove. And that's the environment that I think that some, including myself, are yearning for. Just is not an option. It's not an option to go back to last year. And then just one last comment. I know several were talking about what happens if the governor just, says that we have to open back up. And those are just things, what we're all experiencing, I think, is an ethical dilemma. And at the core of any ethical dilemma is the concept of choice. When you take the choice away, there is no more ethical dilemma. We do what we're told in that case. But for right now, all of us, especially all of you on the board, you have that obligation, that charge to keep kids safe. And I appreciate that you made the difficult decision to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Furcus. Any other Southgate teachers wish to speak?
I would like to say something. My name is
All right.
Jackie Kay. Hi. I'm an art teacher at the high school, and I'm also a parent of a student that goes to Allen. And I've been putting together kits, trying to get supplies so kids don't have to share, and people who can't buy stuff so they all have their own stuff. I'm trying to get that done. But also there was a question earlier from Jennifer Pipta. I don't know, I tried to text you, Michelle, to see if you could answer that for her. She asked, does the remote learning plan include more than 1 day a week of virtual learning with their teachers? So if you could address that, I think she would feel much better.
Sure. Each grade band has different amounts of time that are recommended for remote learning. So we said 3 to 5 days for elementary, and then depending on the secondary students, which class is offered each day, there will be live synchronous opportunities for students to, be remote with that teacher. So there will be some live opportunities that they will have instruction, they will have conferencing, they'll have discussion, and then there will be some asynchronous work that they'll do on the off times where maybe they don't have the face-to-face opportunity with their teacher. But it's definitely more than 1 day a week.
Said 3 to 5.
3 to 5 days, yep.
Any other Southgate teachers wish to speak at this time?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. And your name, please?
This is Melissa Kaczynowski. I teach the Young Fives at Grogan. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate what Mr. Furka said. I just wanted to thank you. I know that my fellow teachers and I have felt like we have been working really, really hard the last few weeks to get ready for any eventuality. And we all know how to teach face-to-face, but this remote teaching is new to all of us. And we've been working really hard to try to make sure that we are doing the absolute best that we can do for our students. I know that no one thinks that this is ideal. All of us would rather be face-to-face, but we all want to be safe. And I just wanted to thank you all for making the decision tonight and giving us the opportunity to have some extra weeks to plan. I was very nervous about the thought of not finding out until the week before school started what we were going to be doing. And I just wanted to thank you guys and really appreciate that you have made a decision tonight.
Thank you very much. And any other Southgate teachers in line would like to speak?
Pardon me, this is Rick. Through the chair and to everyone, respectfully, I need to sign off. I have a very early morning tomorrow, and I had a very early morning today, so I have to depart. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, guys.
Rick.
All right.
Tim, you're muted, buddy.
Any other Southgate teachers wish to speak at this time? All right, thank you. With that, we will take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Craig, sorry.
Mr. President, I'd like to offer a motion to adjourn.
All right. And do we have a second?
Support.
Second.
Who was that? Andy Green?
No,
Who was the support?
Sean.
I think it was Sean. I think it was
All
Sean.
right, we have a motion by Mr. Craig, a support by Mr. Sage. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
It's the little picture of a microphone.
While we're waiting, Mr. Estheimer, I wish you all my love and good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, I second.
Mr. Freitas,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
You're muted again.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
and Mr. Lemos left.
All right. With that, we are now adjourned.